Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Gun. I'm attorney Lewis Myers Jr. I'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome to Beyond the Gun. I am proud to say that we have an excellent program this evening, and it's African American women in the forefront of the struggle in the age of Trumpism. Rarely do we have discussions where we focus the 100% attention of what we're doing on African American women. And I am so proud today to have three very professional, outstanding, brilliant, young African American women as the panelists. First, we have Dr. Kim Delaney, African American Studies Department, Chicago State University. We have Dr. Karen Douglas from the Gilead Behavioral Health Clinic. And we have Professor Attorney LaRoma White, Kennedy King College here in the city of Chicago. And today, there are two key words, African American women, and we're using Trumpism to the extent that that is the era in which we're in. But women, African American women, we've had problems, you know, from Sojourner Truth to Fannie Lou Hamer, and we still got them.
That's right.
And we want to focus today on African American women. Where are we? What are we doing? What should we be doing? Dr. Kim Delaney, I'm going to you first.
Okay, where are we? Well, I call it the era of 45. I don't even say the name. In the era of 45, I think everything is just uncovered.
45 meaning the era of Donald Trump.
Of him, yes.
That's right. I want the audience to know.
Okay.
At 45, I think you're calling numbers on TV.
45th president of the United States. And so I think all he did was uncover what was there, what was already brewing and evident for some of us who study America and the social sciences. He uncovered a lot of the feelings of people that had never left.
Racism,
all of it. And
white supremacy.
White supremacy. When he speaks, sometimes it
Chauvinism.
seems like he's still in slave time.
And sexism, and because we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the problem that women have. Women, we had problems under Obama, and certainly under George W. and George the one before him. But at the end of the day, we are going into a new era, and these are times unlike others.
Just blatant.
Dr. Douglas, what do you think about Trump? We're talking a little bit about what's your reaction to him, how does it affect African American women, what should we be saying and doing?
I think as Dr. Delaney said, that he has really just been open and honest and kind of said things that people wanted to say for a very long time.
Like what are some of the things?
The racism, you know, the blatant acts against women, the sexism, just his whole view of the disabled, you know, those that are underprivileged. He has just openly said what many people have felt for many, many years.
Yeah, I think a lot of women, you know, even before I think that he took the oath, he had made some horrible comments about touching women and grabbing them and using some very profane terms. And that upset a lot of women, and not just African American women. But you're right. What are some of the things that have really concerned you in terms of the sexism and in terms of the racism that he has promulgated?
You know, I think for Donald Trump, the things that he has just blatantly said about women, making some of the vulgar terms that he's used to describe women, those are the things that women today should not have to deal with, but having a leader, the ultimate leader, to be able to say these things and then have no remorse about it, he's really opened the doors for other people, white supremacist people that are about segregation and racism, to be able to openly say what they want to say without any repercussions. Because if the ultimate leader is doing it, why can't they?
Attorney White, I mean, you have been in this business a long time. You are not just a professor of criminal justice over at Kennedy King College, but you've handled sex discrimination cases for a number of years. You've been involved in that type of litigation. What's your feeling about in the era of Donald Trump, and let's say racism and sexism, what are your views?
Well, Donald Trump has made his views clear. He's very open about it. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He is only presenting a more intense obstacle than we've had to bear anyway, as a people and definitely as women. So
what have we had to bear? I mean, and we have a lot of young women and young men watching out there, and so we got to be a little case specific with them.
Okay.
What have you, as an African American woman, and your experiences before and after? What have you had to bear, and what are you still bearing because of your race and sex?
Well, first and foremost, racism. It's I came along during the 60s, and at that time, I still didn't want to believe it was real, but it was real, and it smacks you in the face, and it's disappointing, and it's hurting, and unless you are very strong and very determined, you won't get beyond just focusing on the problem. But I do think one thing that Donald Trump has done, he has put forth a strong force that says, we're going to survive this, and we're going to get beyond this.
Who's
no
we?
matter the African American women, African American people.
And you think that African American women post Donald Trump or before Donald Trump have become sensitized to the point that they're willing to organize around the sexism and the racism that they're hearing, particularly in the context of white supremacy and all of that?
I think absolutely they are. I think that they have been, that they always have been, even in the 60s. You know, black women have always been in the forefront of the movement. The movement didn't go away because Donald Trump got in office. The movement is just going in a direction to deal with the current problems that exist under Donald Trump. The racism, the sexism, the chauvinism, all of it.
Dr. Delaney, what are you teaching African American women in the university setting in which you work about their dilemma, not just in the era of Trump, as African American women? What is it that you are putting into their minds that they should or should not be doing, and where they should or should not be going?
Well, I don't particularly say what they should and should not be doing, but what I do, what undergirds my perspective is that Donald Trump, I have an appreciation for Donald Trump, actually, because I like truth. So I like that Donald Trump just boldly said, he's just that ignorant to just boldly say what he feels and what he thinks. I appreciate that about him, so that other people who thought it was gone or who have been tiptoeing can see boldly what we're dealing with. So for me, I don't teach, I teach a black women's class, Africa in the diaspora, but I don't teach kind of what we should be doing for 45. I teach basically about American structures, because that's what he represents.
American what?
Structures.
All right,
structures
what is that?
in this, different systems in this, like the system of racism that exists here, and that never left. It's bold and empowered, and it still exists. Sexism, right? And so for me, he doesn't offend me. He doesn't surprise me, because he, as you said, he was honest. He doesn't offend me. You know what offended me more was that people elected him. I was offended by that. The next day after that, I was offended that because it said to me, it was a bold, in-your-face statement about where this country is and what these people think of me as a woman, think of me as a black person, as an African American. It said what this country feels about me. That's what that election of him said. He doesn't surprise me. I think he has, I've read some things that he has psychological problems. He doesn't surprise me at all. But what more surprises me is the people who are going along with him, that there could be a majority.
You are in the area of behavioral science.
Yes.
And you deal with people who have, and first of all, you're a psychologist, and you deal with people who have psychological problems, and you deal with subtle discrimination and not so subtle, and you deal with people in the public domain. I mean, what's your feeling today when we look at him and we look at what he's projecting? Donald Trump is projecting to the universe and to the world, and projecting, how does it affect African American women? Is it negative? Does it do something to them that it doesn't do to other groups, or are they just in a big pile of women?
I think what Donald Trump is doing to the African American women, especially our young women, he's really trying to perpetuate a sense of low self-esteem and a low value for who they are and what they can be. And I think that as African American women, we have to begin to model to our children, to our young women, that regardless of what position he has or anyone else has, that he does not dictate their value. Because if we allow our women to continue to be in a position where they're downplayed and they're just kind of put in where they just are not able to see who they really are, then we've lost the value as African American women. Because what we have to understand is, for a very long time, African American women were the cement to the family, you know, and because of some of the things that are coming along now with the drug abuse and things like that, with the domestic violence, that is beginning to tear up the core value and fiber of our families, and we cannot allow that to continue to be so by someone that wants to see us as a people and families and communities to be torn apart.
Attorney White, you teach criminal justice, and you've been in the system over at Kennedy King for quite some time. And criminal justice is very important for African American women. You know, I go over to the county jail, and I visit the tiers where there are African American women. What is it that you see vis-a-vis African American women who are incarcerated, or African American women in general in the criminal justice system, who may feel that they are blindsided by the racism of the system, and they're double blindsided by what Trump is doing or reinforcing? I tell you what, before you start, we're going to wind down and take a break. Dr. Kim Delaney, Dr. Karen Douglas, Attorney Larama White. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Reverend R. Ken Turner, producer here at CAN TV, to tell you about another great show that you can catch on CAN TV. Omnibus Roundtable. That's right, Omnibus Roundtable. It's new and improved, and it's exciting because they handle the topics that you're interested in. In fact, if you have an idea for a program, if you have an idea for a show, call the number and talk with producer Wanda Carter. Look, make the time, and take the time to see Omnibus Roundtable right here on CAN TV. Blessings and bliss.
Welcome back to Beyond the Gun. Attorney White, I think we are left off with you, but I want to throw another question to you. You know, after Donald Trump was elected in the inauguration, a day or so, or maybe a week or so later, hundreds of thousands of women across the country marched against the Trump administration. And there were mass demonstrations in cities all around the country. I happen to have been downtown Chicago on the day they had the mass demonstration here. More than 200,000 women showed up. I didn't see that many, quote, African American women as a part of the thrones of women that I saw. I watched it across the country. Why do you think African American women were less visible in that setting when the issue was, you know, the rights of women and the anti-Trumpism that particularly white women had seen in the incoming administrator?
Well, I believe that African American women immediately after the election felt sad, hopeless, didn't know how they were going to handle this, how they were going to progress beyond that point. I think that the marching went on for a while. People came out because the impact of his election not only impacted African American women, but women across the board, because he is so disrespectful, and just everybody was I think torn up about this for weeks and months. I think that finally groups, especially African American women, decided that they would have to come together and try to figure out how to organize to combat this period of time that we're going to go through, this 4 years coming up of Trumpism.
Well, you know, Dr. Delaney, you are a resident African American specialist.
Let me add on to that.
Well, what do you think about that? Because then I'm going to lead into what's the agenda. But right now, why were we in the background?
I can tell you why
African-American
I
women.
wasn't there, and why a lot of women I know weren't there, and what I believe. It's because it was nonsensical to me. It doesn't make sense for me to go protest with people who elected them. What, you have was you drunk or something yesterday? You elected him yesterday, then today I'm going to go out and march with you about him?
I guess a lot of those women who were marching would say they didn't vote for him. That's why they went in the
Well,
streets.
then that's a problem too. If the people didn't vote, listen, he won. He won. So people put him in. And the research shows that a lot of women voted for him. So I'm thinking women, particularly, to be honest, when we look at groups. So white women who put him in, I would like the marchers to go and have conversation with them. And still now, today, go have conversation with them so he doesn't get back in. I think black women knew that they had did their job, they had did what they were supposed to do. And so I felt like, what's the purpose? Like you all voted him in yesterday. He didn't win just by men. He won by a lot of women voting. So those conversations should have been had beforehand amongst white to white, just like black women were having with black women. And even if you didn't like Hillary Clinton, you knew for sure you didn't want a man who said grab him by the vagina. So we had those conversations. So I'm not going to march tomorrow.
But do you really think that people thought that he was going to win? Even those that voted for him, do you think that they thought that he was really going to win? I know most people that I've spoken with, they didn't feel that he would win, even though he had a great deal of supporters. They really thought that Hillary Clinton would win. So
Hillary Clinton thought she was going to win too.
She thought she was going to win too.
So when you say why march with those people that thought that voted for him, you know, I think that we have to be mindful that, and my perspective is that I think African American women are so used to things being done to them, and as Attorney White said, they have a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, and it takes us some time to really be able to think about it and to regroup and figure out what we need to do as a community as we go forward. And I think that's why we were not a big part of the marches that were done immediately afterwards.
Let me transitionalize into something because we're running against a time factor. What's the agenda? I mean, what in the era of Trumpism, and the Trumpism is my term, in the era of Trump, what is the agenda? What should we be doing? Not just about Trump. As African American women, you have unique, specific problems that the world needs to see and hear, but that you as women need to amplify. What should the agenda be?
I think healthcare should be one, and then also equal job pay and opportunities. Because I think if we have healthcare, then we can kind of do some things with the disparity of access to healthcare, which would allow us to be able to have our children be healthier and even have a healthier life in the future. And then with equal pay and equal opportunities, we're able to have more economic development that will help us as a community and as a people to move forward and not have to depend on systems that were designed to keep us down.
I think that we have to focus on education and imaging, because I think no matter
education and
imaging.
All right.
Imaging.
No, I heard it, but I wanted the audience to understand.
Yes,
imaging is very important.
Yes, and culturally specific education. I think that's what we have to focus on, because if you get equal pay, but you don't know yourself and you don't know the reality of your existence, then you don't know how to navigate space. You're not going to have money for long, So whatever else, and you're not going to be healthy if you cuckoo, and if you don't feel good about yourself and know yourself, right? So I think we should focus on really all of those things, all of it. But I think that we have to have an intentional push for culturally specific education to help us to understand the reality of this.
I like that.
What
an
we
intentional
exist in.
push for
and
culturally
then
specific.
imaging, because imaging matters. People, I said to my class the other night, it's a Black Images and Film class. Hitler used imaging to break down people. What was it? Japan used imaging to build back up. Imaging matters. Imaging matters. So you can't call me a whore and talk about, just belittle me, and then have us just smile and dress up and look pretty through it. No, I have to deal with that. And then we can't have each other on TV cursing each other out, beating each other, get you some red bottoms, love and hip hop, all that. We have to counter those images, because they sear into the young people's mind and mess us up.
I agree with
agenda.
I agree with both Dr. Douglas and Dr. Delaney. I think it's going to be real important for African American women, especially, to focus on educating themselves, not so much getting a college degree, but preparing themselves to get out here and create for themselves, for the community, for their children. We in our communities have a problem with self-love.
That's right.
You got to love yourself first. You know, when people know better, they do better. Then they've got to learn better. We've got to stop relying on Trump and his followers.
That's right.
To guide us, guide our lives. So we really need to focus on educating ourselves, educating our communities, educating the kids about who we are, what we are, and also we need to steer them towards preparing to become entrepreneurs and build businesses.
That's right.
So that
So where do
we
we
don't have
start
to
all
rely.
this? You know, let me be the devil's advocate. I hate to say the devil's advocate. Somebody's advocate, right? At the end of the day, do we do a forum, a conference? Do we begin to organize and have communities around women and the women's issue? How do we do this, Doctor?
I think that
Douglas?
it starts in the classroom, as you said, education. Our children have to begin to see people that look like them, that have gotten out of the systems of poverty. You know, when I think about when I was growing up, I think the reason why I did better than some of my counterparts is because my mother allowed us to go to different areas to see different things, and we were educated in a different area. So therefore I saw something outside of my community and what I knew to be my reality, which gave me a dream and something to move forward and look forward to and push towards.
You know, I think, how do we, well, let me ask this question, since I'm the only male on the panel. What's the role of African American men in supporting what you're talking about doing? What role should we play? I mean, how do we get involved in it? I don't want us to think that we have no role in it, even though I think the issue, African American women have been our leaders, Rosa Parks and Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker, you name them. You know, so what role does the African American man carry?
I think this is a great start. What you did, just to have us on your mind and on the mind of black men, and then to say, "Well, I know people don't hear from you, so give us a format and ask us questions. Let us speak for ourselves and speak." I say all the time that I am who I am. I have the boldness that I have because I've been loved well by men. And women too, but men too. So the maleness that's acceptable in society has been transferred to me. So it cracks me up. People say, "Oh, you're so dominant. It's like a male personality." No, it's a little bit of freedom. It's a little bit of freedom that comes with being a male in society. So I think if you can lend that to people by giving them a voice, by giving them a space, by putting them on panels. And for women, we have traditionally, historically, taken it for ourselves by supporting each other, you know, talking to each other about things. Women do that well. You know, you talk about something, we have a panel talk, even though it doesn't get the media attention or we don't get the big platforms, we have those small spaces where we girlfriend each other up and talk about issues and emotional, support each other emotionally. And so I think if we get bigger platforms, if that was on TV more, if again the imaging, if you get to see me liking you and meeting you and liking you and helping each other and working together, then that destroys all this imaging of the cattiness. And how men can do that is men who have these platforms share them.
And you know, I think it's even broader than that. You're absolutely right. There's so much that can be done, but and I'm going to be very critical. African American men, including myself, we all have residual phase backs of chauvinism. Yes. So I think we got to be very critical of it. I'm not going to sit up here and say that I don't have those symptoms. I'm sure my wife would say, "You're absolutely damn right you do," right? But at the end of the day, we have to struggle, and part of us struggling is our female counterparts helping us through that.
That's right.
We got to learn as men, to accept criticism and to be critical of ourselves in relationship to the women, most of the women who take care of our households. Professor White, Attorney White,
yes.
I mean, where are we in the academic arena? And you're a lawyer, you're in the courtroom with sex cases and sex discrimination. I mean, what should we be talking about? What should men be learning, and what should people be talking about?
That's exactly what was on my mind. We need to have forums and seminars within the African American community that deals with restoring the family, deals with actually conducting parenting classes. I
Yes.
do a lot of
that's
work with child protection, and our young men don't know how to be men nor fathers. Our young women don't know how to be mothers. We have a big problem with drugs and alcohol and just crime, black on black crime. So all of that needs to be dealt with within our community. You know, not at the University of Chicago,
That's
not
right.
downtown on Michigan Avenue somewhere. It needs to be dealt with in Inglewood. It needs to be dealt with where our people are.
Yeah, I
Because we don't have our young people don't have the direction that they need. Now, I always emphasize to the young ladies that I have represented that becoming a mother doesn't mean that you know how to parent.
Right.
Giving birth does not make you a parent. Young men, I represent a lot of them too. And I always emphasize to them, making a baby doesn't make you a man,
Right.
doesn't make you a father.
Right.
So we, as those who, and I'm not saying we're perfect, but if we know better, then we
Right.
need to reach back and teach
That's right.
Well, you know,
our
Dr.
young folk coming along.
Dr.
That's
Douglas,
right.
we have to start the discussion, and I'm glad that we have come to this point. I mean, what is an African American woman? What is an African woman? I mean, what should she be doing and not doing? Where did she learn
Yeah.
about womanhood? You've repeatedly, Dr. Delaney, talked about imaging, and I like that.
Yeah.
But who teaches a woman, just like who teaches a man? How do you know what a man is?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the attributes of a man? Is it because you have a physical characteristic? Or is it because there's a composite something that women should be told from birth to death and they should live that life? And who does the training? You know, Dr. Delaney, we used to have the rite of passage.
Yeah.
What's the rite of passage for
Right.
African American women? And where does that start? You know, I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I mean, should there be a rite of passage? And where should we teach it? Does it start at Chicago State, or does it start at the womb of the mother? I have a theory. You know, I have a theory that babies are made long before they come out of the womb.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we don't take that into consideration. So how do we begin to teach what comes out of the womb? A sense of dignity and integrity and right and wrong, and how does that institutionalize in them that for the rest of their lives those values will go with them? What do you think?
Well, let me say, my daughter is a junior at Howard, so when you talk about young women, I try not to boast, but she does exceptionally well. She's an intern right now at ABC, CBS, ESPN, and a couple of others, right? She's a broadcast journalism major. And when I look at some of my friends and I look at who we have children the same age, the one difference is, I promise, it's that imaging thing matters. What she's seen of me, and not how I stay consistent with her, and how I know how to love myself,
Absolutely.
and model that for her.
Well,
and
I want you to keep that point.
Yeah.
But let me say this, and we're going to have to close out. We need about 10 of these discussions. We need about, and I hope in the days to come, we're going to come back and follow this up. I've had the privilege to know some great African American women, and I've traveled all over the world and all over the country. I was in Mississippi with Fannie Lou Hamer one period of time, and I have known and read about the inspiration and dedication of African American women. I want to thank each of you, Dr. Kim Delaney, Dr. Douglas, and Attorney White. It has been great being on this program with you. I can't tell you how appreciative I am, and I think that this is a good start point,
Me too.
Dr. Delaney.
Thank you.
All
We
right.
thank you for having
All
us.
Yes.
right,
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you.
Look, Beyond the Gun, and we'll be back within a week with new issues, and we're not going to leave this one to just die on the cross. We're going to continue this.